Who hasn't been on a lesson tee, a practice session out on the golf course, and wanting to know why did that golf swing work? What happened? Okay. And for me, this is something that we need to kind of obviously explore, as well as understand that we're going to be pushing back against a certain golf culture that doesn't encourage this kind of in-depth analysis. And it really starts with us needing to have a certain routine that allows us to make conscious decisions about the shot that we're trying to execute. And then conscious evaluation of being able to measure the three measurable elements that help us have a better understanding of what took place with that specific golf shot. And I think we need to start off first by taking a look at the process. So here's what I want you to do. It's 5 steps. So stay with me. It's going to be information that I think will be incredibly impactful for you. The first step is that you need to make a choice. You have to decide exactly what you want to do with your golf shot itself, right? So if I'm 150 yards away, for me, that's somewhere in between an 8 and a 9 iron. What kind of golf shot do I want to hit? Is it into the wind? Do I have a funny lie? Is the ball above my feet, below my feet? These are all part of the decision-making process that helps me decide exactly what I want to do with the golf shot itself. That's step number one. Step number two is that I want to visualize exactly what the golf ball is going to do when I execute this golf shot. The more that I can visualize what I want it to do, high trajectory, falling right, starting at the trees on the left edge of the green, the more specific I can be, the more that my ability to visualize the shot will help me transfer over to our third step to this process. And that is very simply feeling the shot that you are envisioning, feeling the shot that you're visualizing. Okay? And all of us, to a large degree, this is where the feel concept or the feel rule really comes into play. Because if I'm trying to hit a different trajectory of golf shots, I would say that this is a golf shot that I'm going to be trying to hit lower, or I have a lot more shaft lean, which is going to de-loft the golf club and launch the golf ball lower. Whereas this is a golf shot that I'm going to try and hit higher. Look how there is less lean of the shaft. Even look maybe how my upper body tilted backwards. Those are both characteristics that are going to help me launch the golf ball higher up in the air. If I can attach the proper feeling to the shot that I visualize, that gives me a better chance of being able to execute the shot. Executing the shot, that's step number 4. Right? So after we have decided what we want to do, after we've visualized what we want to do, after what we feel what we want to do, that's when we let the athlete try and take over. The scientist did all that information beforehand. He prepped the athlete to be able to just step up, look at the golf ball, and then try and execute all of the preparations that took place before with little to no thought. Okay? The last step, step number 5, is the evaluation process. And that's where it's really important for us to understand that there's 3 different ways for us to evaluate a shot. And probably the most important one, right, to start off with, if we take a look at all 3 of these elements, is number 1, did I hit the right part of the golf ball? Immediately, all of us know, even before we've looked up to see where the golf ball travels, whether we've hit a good shot or not, whether we've hit it on the toe, the hosel, in the middle of the club face, maybe a little high on the club face, maybe a little low on the club face, and of course in our perfect sweet spot, right? So immediately we have a very good idea, even without knowing where the golf ball has traveled, if we hit the right part of the golf ball. That is our ability to evaluate our shot, number 1. Number 2, what did the golf ball tell us about the ball flight? Did it launch on the trajectory that we wanted? Did it curve or not curve the way that we wanted? That is the second concept for us to be able to evaluate our ball flight. The last one is the feeling of the golf swing itself. So if I set up to try and execute a low shot and I produce that kind of a technique for my feel, but then I stepped up and had this kind of a feel down at impact, that's going to produce a different ball flight. That's also going to produce a very different feel. I think you would agree that this feeling compared to this feeling has 2 very different feelings. And the more that you can start to tie in those 3 ways to be able to measure how you performed with your golf shot, that's really when you start to be able to implement confirmation bias, implement executing exactly what you try to. Now, That's an intimidating process, but I want you guys to recognize that you've done that throughout most of your life with different activities, with different games. And so you and I are going to have a quick conversation real quickly about trying to throw a ball to my camera with 3 different movements. Okay. Now, if I make this movement here, be able to try and throw the ball to the camera and assume that it's correct very quickly through me hopefully repeating the feeling and seeing where the golf ball landed, there's no way in the world that that's got enough power, enough speed to be able to launch it to the camera itself. Whereas if I make this movement, all of you better duck, right? We know that that's going way too fast and way too powerful for this throwing sequence, okay? If we do this one, okay, now my athlete has learned from each one of those evaluations and chosen concept or chosen processes to be able to try and throw a ball in the correct direction or the correct distance of the camera. A little bit of both. So understand that you've done that with other skill sets throughout your life. If you can embrace that concept, go that deep into that 5-step process, start off with really small movements so that you can actually feel what the differences are at impact through your different movements. Build that cache of responses and how the golf ball responds to each one of the different feelings. And you're going to have a much better understanding of why you performed well for a specific golf shot. So give that information a go, give that process a go. And if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to utilize the comment section down below. Best of luck.